Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can start with the presentation, and I hope that everybody is able to hear me. Okay, then I start. My name is Andreas Humann. I'm the chairman for Profinet cabling for the Profibus user organization. And in my working group, we realize the guidelines for Profinet cabling. And I want to give you a short introduction to our new 4-pair cabling guideline for Profinet. And if we speak about Profinet cabling, it is necessary that we look which standard is relevant for the cabling for industrial applications and for Ethernet cabling. And if you look here into the IEC standards, there are two standards. I would say it is on one side the IEC 24702. This is relevant for the IT cabling. And this cabling describes the generic cabling and the cabling also between automation islands in industrial premises. And for automation, we have an IEC 61784 standard, and this is a typical automation standard. But if you look at this picture, you see that there are two industrial parts between automation islands where you can use both standards, and this is a very problematic situation because two standardization organizations think that they are responsible for this area in industry. And there, for the plant, it looks like as if you can use both standards. For cabling inside a machine, the situation is totally clear. There here you have one IEC standard, the application-specific cabling, and there you have a standard for Profinet, of course, for other automation profiles too. And so we face today, or not today, I think today we have the solution with our Profinet cabling, but in the past we have seen there a very problematic situation, and the 4-pair cabling standard we have now for Profinet, we think that this is the solution for cabling for both. And one reason for this problem, for example, it depends on the different layers where these associations describe the cabling solutions. For IT cabling, they have a media-dependent interface which is lying under the physical layer of Ethernet, and they describe a cabling which is suitable not only for Ethernet but also for other. And there's a question: what are the other physical layers? Because today it is only Ethernet, and if you look at the results in the last years, the categories they have realized, they were always depending on typical Ethernet applications. But I would say for automation, we did it in another way, because there for automation, this standards, it's based on the physical layer Ethernet. So we describe there Ethernet cabling, and in my presentation I speak about Ethernet cabling, and Profinet is standard Ethernet, so it has the typical physical layer, the Ethernet physical layer. But there are two perspectives if you describe it: the automation perspective, and with a channel model for automation and a channel model for IT. For IT, you have this generic cabling, and the connectors on the device side, they are not integrated in this channel. You have a channel model without these connectors. For automation, it is a very problematic situation because this is a connector which is typically terminated on site in the field directly. So for automation, we need another channel model. For Profinet, we use a channel model where we have the direct device connection. So that is one an application for cabling where you have two devices and you want to connect them directly. Then you need a connector on the side of the first device and on the second device. And if you count these connectors in the IT module, this is a connectionless channel with two connectors. And for automation, of course, you have to count these two connectors. It's a connection with two connectors. So the different topologies we face there for IT and for automation. For example, I think you all know that for typical LAN, local area network applications for Ethernet, you have typically the star topology, and you have a central switch, and from this central point you have the star to the devices. And for automation, it's always necessary to have very complex topologies. For example, the line topology, and if you build up a line topology, it does not make sense to have a separate switch between every device. So there you integrate the switch into the device and realize a line topology. And if you want to measure, it is, of course, there's a different perspective. They are different too. For automation, you have this connection between active devices, and you want to measure a link which connects two devices directly. We call it the end-to-end link, and there you need the measurement for the end-to-end link. And in IT, you typically have a measurement for a permanent link. This is a part of the channel which is installed directly in the building, and you cannot change it. So this is a part where you need the measurement to show that the cabling can be used for the Ethernet application. And you have different installation. In IT, the cabling solution is completely independent of the application, and you have there a pre-cabling, and you use the highest category what is on the market typically, because you don't know where you will use your installation for in the future. And on automation for Profinet, and you have application-specific installation. You exactly know where you want to use this installation. You know that this is an installation you want to use for Profinet, and so you typically today realize an on-site cabling with 2 pair in category 5, which is suitable for fast Ethernet. And when you look to the assembly, of course, when you have this pre-cabling, you need a connector for this pre-cabling, and this is the connector in the permanent link. And this connector in the permanent link is the jack in the jack side of the RJ45, and so you need a pre-cabling jack. And if you look at the automation end-to-end link cabling, you need the connector directly on the device side. And which connector do you plug into the device? Of course, it is a plug, and you plug this into the device, and so there you need an on-site termination plug. So together, you must mention that you have a very problematic situation if you compare automation cabling versus IT cabling. And you see there that there is not a clear focus. If you want to have a cabling which you can use for both, you have a very big problem. So there are walls between today IT and automation cabling, and the question is what to do. And we had this question too a few years ago when we discussed what will be the next generation Profinet cabling in the future. And we have discussed that the vision should be that you have all applications of a manufacturing company on a uniform platform, a communication platform. And if you want this, then the options you have are that you have a cabling for the industrial building, for the automation island, the plant, and for the automation island network, the machine. And you can have two different cabling solutions. As is shown on the right and on the left, there you have a cabling solution for the building and a cabling solution green for plant and machine. And for Profinet, we have decided to realize a 4-pair cabling solution which you can use for both, for the industrial building side and the automation side, even if you have a network inside a machine, but also for the plant side. And our Profinet cabling we have realized is this and convergent uniform cabling for all applications. And the specification for this is the Profinet cabling and interconnection guideline, and we have in spring of this year a new version. So the actual version is from 2014, at the beginning of 2014. So, and this specification in this guideline will be part of the IEC Profinet profile in the future. And if you look into this guideline, you see which component category is necessary to be chosen. And we have chosen the component category category 5 or better. Because 2-pair cabling is limited to category 5 of IEC 11801, and so to fast Ethernet. If you have only 2 pairs and category 5, you only are able to use this installation for fast Ethernet. So 4-paired Profinet cabling does not rule out future developments. So Profinet cabling can be realized, for example, in category 6A. So Profinet cabling can be used for applications up to 10 gigabit Ethernet. To have different cables, and you need 4 cables with flexible and fixed installation, and you need them in with American wire gauge 23, so that you can use them for long distances. And what is very important, because you have very big EMC problems, and you need a segregation class D for laying the cables next to power cables, for example. And we have this for 4-pair cables, and we have this same today for 2-pair cables. So you can choose if you use 4 or 2-pair cables. So Profinet today has cables for all typical industrial applications. And if you have seen that we have decided to use 4-pair cabling in the future, the Profinet connector we used in the past, it was a connector with 4 pin. And of course, you cannot put 4 pairs onto a connector with 4 pins. So it was necessary to realize a completely new M12 connector solution with a performance category 6A. So it is a very future-proof concept with this M12. And today there are many manufacturers which can deliver this M12 X-coded. And of course, there are solutions for this plug for on-site termination, which is typical for automation applications. Then the connectors for pair. The new RJ45 is the old RJ45, because in the past the RJ45 can be used for 4 pairs, and so in the future you can use the same RJ45, of course, and also if they are not category 6A, this is not very important. So there is no incompatibility based on RJ45 for this Ethernet applications. And of course, there are also plugs for on-site termination from different vendors. The cabinet cord set. In the past, we only thought that it is necessary to have a completely on-site termination, so that you put your devices direct into the field and then realize the cabling. But we have seen that there's also pre-cabling in industrial application. So it is necessary, if you look, for example, into a switch cabinet, to connect, for example, a switch with an HMI or a control directly. There you can use pre-assembled cables. But these pre-assembled cables, they have to be capable to be used inside industrial environment. And this is the reason why we have realized the cabinet cord set. These are cord sets for Profinet, and they are fully usable in the context of the Profinet component approach I will show later on. And they have matched EMC suitability and robustness to the use in switch cabinets. And of course, they are also segregation class D and can be used here direct in the neighborhood of power cabling. We think that this cabinet cords, they are the future industrial patch cords. We have legalized bulkheads because we have seen that there are different channel models coming from the office IT side to the industry, and why don't use them too? So we think we can use the office typical keystones also in industrial applications. So we have legalized the use of keystones in industrial application and can build up, in addition to our typical industrial channel models, also channel models you know from the office IT. And then we can build up, for example, a permanent link. So there's no reason for the IT responsible to avoid Profinet cabling, because Profinet cabling is capable to be used for the same channel models the IT manager knows today. And of course, what is very important, this is the end-to-end link. and we have specified the end-to-end link, but it is not only necessary to specify, it is also necessary to have the right measuring instruments and to measure them, because in the past we have seen in an experiment that if you measure a wrong terminated cable with the traditional instruments for the IT equipment, they will not show that there has been that there is a mistake, for example, in termination the cable. So you need the special specification for measurement, and we have this specification, and I would say this is the happy end for the end-to-end link. And what is important, and we have also an application orientation, because for special applications, for example, the AIDA application, this is an application for car manufacturers. You need for all applications in the field, for example, here at a robot, you need the specialized solutions for installation, and there we have all the installation components for this, and not only for Profinet data, but also for the 24 volts power supply. And so at the end of this presentation, I would say, and in the past there was not a clear focus for the solution, and it seems so that these are completely different worlds of thinking there. And today I think we found a solution which can be used for both, and so a solution which has a very big acceptance not only in the automation field but also in the IT field. And if you think at what we call integrated industry or industry 4.0, their communication is very important, and for communication you need a network, and a uniform network for all applications. And so I think for Profinet we have realized a future-proof cabling, and we have realized a synthesis of automation and IT. And we think this is the future for industrial cabling, and for Profinet this has already been implemented. And this is my presentation. I think here it was one slide I haven't shown. I will show it here, and because I think it is important. And for Profinet, we need Profinet components, but for cabling components today there is no certification for a certification process for cabling components. So we decided to have a vendor declaration. Everybody who wants to sell Profinet components for cabling has to give a certificate and a vendor declaration for compliance to this Profinet document. And so you find there on the homepage of the PNO in the internet a complete list of all vendors who have declared this vendor declaration. And it's very important because this then gives a good opportunity to find the right component, and you are able to mix components for Profinet cabling. So you have a very big spectrum, a big portfolio of Profinet cabling components you can use, and there are different manufacturers which have realized Profinet cabling, and this cabling components, they are compatible based on the vendor declaration of the different manufacturers. So thank you. This is the presentation concerning the Profinet 4-pair cabling. And if you have questions, please ask.